17, real-time CAD. Make sure you get his weak side, okay? Turn it left. Oh, yeah.
That's okay.
Thank you, appreciate the help.
You know,
know,
that's what I'm here for. Say cheese, guys. Cheese guys.
Yeah.
You broke my camera.
Told you guys would.
Well, you're gonna have to go. Thank you.
We'll let the truth get in the way of our beliefs.
That's right. We're not convinced, no one will be.
Yeah.
She's leaving there anyway. That's a bad sign.
Man, one more photography during the show.
You're gonna need to.
He doesn't do autographs these days, so you know.
Ow.
Actually, we will.
Shannon will.
Trying to get one, get one going. Did you break it?
Yes.
Well, you know what? One quick line on it, because I started another application. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt. I'm with Project Tech. I'd like to introduce our speakers for this session. First, we have Matt Bainey from Banetti. He founded the company, he's CEO. He's been working with Maximo for many years on the name. And Shannon Kraft of J&J has quite a background, started way back as an inventory clerk in Warsaw, Indiana. He now has responsibilities of rolling all J&J into one environment, one Maximo environment for the whole worldwide operation. So with that, I give you Shannon and Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, sir.
Please.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So, Max said, I've been in the Maximo world for a while, since '94. So, seen some significant changes in the product over those years. And now we're finally at a point in time where we're doing things with the product that we've been talking about for 20 years, right? So what we're going to talk a little bit about today is the Internet of Things, total solution management that we're working with Shannon and J&J on. And Maximo is at the core of that. And introduction here, we'll talk a little bit about the history of how we got there, because nothing is just a big bang immediately happens. There's always a base to build on, and how do we get there? And what Shannon has done for the last 5-6 years has been working to build that base foundation, to take the 160 some production sites they have globally, the 70 some different applications out there, almost nothing centralized, and to put that together into a centralized platform, giving them the ability to actually start to get an enterprise view, an enterprise standard and an enterprise view. So what this project is about, the IoT TSM, is leveraging then the next steps of that, bringing Watson Analytics into it, bringing the IoT tool sets and the different capabilities that IBM has put together in their tools, and actually putting them together in a single solution set to solve those problems for J&J, global manufacturing.
So we want to make this a little dynamic as we work back and slides, and some of the points that Matt's gonna raise are gonna trigger thoughts that I may have, and vice versa. So we work so closely together, we finish each other's sentences. Disturbing sometimes.
It happens.
Because some of the things I'm gonna say, he probably shouldn't say. So, we're gonna give you a little brief history, where we came from, and hopefully we're gonna show you, because we took a phased approach to get here, we're gonna use a phased approach to continue forward. That's what we're hoping to do in this presentation.
Absolutely. So Shannon and I started working together 2010, 11. I don't know, it's been a while ago.
It's been a while.
And so when Shannon was constructing basically the foundation of what would be what is today J&J's ECMMS Maximo platform, their global standard. And at that point in time, J&J had built an asset management best practices program called ME2, Manufacturing Equipment Excellence, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And one of their goals was to take basically that standardization of business process that was being pushed out globally and build a system based upon that. So rather than try and reinvent the wheel and decide new standards in the software, let's use the business practices we've already engineered and decided that are going to be our standard.
So the reality is, we started with a subset of the culture that was out there. And we designed the application to meet the culture that was already in place. Gives us a slight advantage. But the lesson learned from that perspective is that putting the application before the process is not always the best approach. We did the reverse. We put the process before the application.
The results, as a result, they had sites that had already bought into the business process and were looking to improve, but didn't have the funding or the know-how to get the technology up to speed. And that created a situation where these initial sites in that phase one were actually, they were begging for it, they were looking for it, right? So that initial target was 38 sites, and the majority of those sites were pre-existing Maximo users from various versions from, I believe, 4 all the way up to 6, right?
All customized versions, standalone systems, their own owners, sorry, that wasn't easy to say, and their own concepts of what they need that site to operate. So we did still, even with the process in place with ME2, we still had a site culture that we're having.
So 2012, 2013, worked together to deploy ECMMS Phase 1, 38 sites globally went live on the platform. As you just said, this was really based upon that ME2, which had been 15 years back and being ingrained in the culture, those business processes. There were some challenges that you guys faced. You had, was not a given that Maximo would be the platform for ECMMS. There is a significant installed base at SAP as well.
We still have some of that culture that we are dealing with. We run into it occasionally, primarily in Europe. They're still on the SAP instances of everything, and that's what we want. So we have to have the ROI, the business value.
So Maximo was far more cost effective to implement per site. And not being tethered to the financials, it also gave a lot of flexibility in terms of movement. So it ended up being kind of by the time you had built the business case, it was pretty obvious that Maximo was the way to go for a centralized global solution. The phase 2 project, so that was 2012, 2013. Then phase 2 was 2014, 2015. And the goal was to then not only bring on more sites, but also to build upon what we had already accomplished in that phase 1. So you've gotten the standard platform out there. People were subscribing to the standardized processes. And it was time to take this the next step and start looking at improvements on that.
Yeah, so in the phased approach, you have several things that you're looking at doing. Not only are you trying to convince management this is the best way to go from a business standpoint, but you also have the culture story. So we took the phase 1 wins that we had, and that became our speech to the
So it's a target of another 36 sites. Again, currently still all focused on manufacturing sites. Within J&J, you have the three sectors, pillars, that's the right word, sectors. The medical devices, pharmaceutical, and then the consumer. Phase 1 was heavily focused on the medical device diagnostics with some consumer.
HVAC to consumers.
Consumer. Phase 2, it started to mix up a little bit more, but still heavily
Yeah, all three
focused
sectors.
in D&D. So all three sectors are now involved. And so at this point, it's, besides just onboarding these 36 sites, how do we start to take that next step and make the platform do more? So this was an IoT, expanding into the IoT framework, okay? So looking at how do we leverage cloud? How do we leverage things like the automatic meter readings from our IoT devices out there? What kind of mobility solutions exist that will enable us to interface with those things seamlessly, also while interfacing with Maximo, EC, and MS? The electronic device asset management.
Before you go too far, why do you think this matters? In a phased approach, why even talk about this? Why do you think? Any ideas?
We come out of the, why the 5 to 10 year plan? Or?
No. Why would we even be concerned with talking about cloud and AMR and a mobile suite at this point? Phase 2 is essentially done.
More usability, mobile solutions and performance based on cloud.
Yes, and you always have to show the value to your end users that you're going to take it to the next level. But I've got phase 3 coming. I still got the culture of management I got to convince. I have to do that with ROI. Can't get another 8 million to continue for another 30 sites if I don't have value today.
The foundation is set, it was built upon it now.
You would think, but it's never set. It's always, you get a new management team, they see things differently, and you've got to change your whole perspective and presentation. The beauty of it is, IoT does that.
More opportunities for ROI, a lot more opportunities. So what we did in working with Chad is to select the facility at Cordis in Miami, manufacturing site there, to deploy a POC proving out that this will actually work, that we really can connect to a production line. We can connect to those IoT devices. We can leverage it through a mobile device, see what's going on in our work management system, make decisions on the fly, right? So it was chosen, put it there. It was a small facility, small manufacturing plant, easy to deploy, and I think it went very well.
It did. It went very well. The proof of concept showed the entire range from data from the PLC through the mobile suite and back into the mobile application, into the base application maximum. So we could show that ROI, the benefit, not just from the business standpoint, but from the end user as well.
And I think some of the, I'm going to put this on here, but what those ROI numbers looked like were simply response time. I have an alarm now that's on my mobile device. Instead of waiting for someone to recognize it and then for it to go through phone calls or through the system, I could immediately see the alarm straight off the PLC. And the response times were dropped by, it was significant number of minutes.
On average, about 10 minutes to respond, depending on the type of response needed. Generally, in that area, it's a clean room environment. They produce capital. So we tend to keep the technicians close by. But there are times that, no matter how close you are, you're still going to be 10 minutes away. And for them, because it is the type of facility it is spread out across several different buildings, the response time was just horrible. So this allowed them to immediately stop what they were doing because they did have an alarm that directly affected production, and the need to get there quickly and respond to that could
POC in 2014. So moving on now into started in 2014, now moving into 2016 and the next phase 3 of the ECMS implementation. So again, continuing to build on everything, but now we have almost 100 sites live out there, right?
On a single platform.
So you really you have 3 projects you own now. You have a sustainability continuous improvement for those 100+ sites that are out there live, right? Because they have business needs and continual maturity and improvement with those. Plus you have another 65 sites.
And so phase 1, I spent about $8 million bringing the sites on. Phase 2 was another $8 million. I still have to get an ROI on that $16 million year after year for 6 years each. So as you can see, that begins to compound. You don't sleep well. Or often.
So delivery of the ROI on the live sites, bringing 65 new sites on board. We had a successful POC in the IoT framework, so now we want to look at how we can take that to the next level. And of course, cloud has been another project you've been working on as well, figuring out how to.
I tried to launch cloud last year, but the audience wasn't ready. So management supported it. It made the most business sense, and we talk about security, right? Everybody needs to have security around their data. They weren't ready. So I had to take a step back, and how can I approach this and get that culture ready to accept what we already know is going to work very well, because it works now. And in a regulated, validated environment, you better know what you're talking about. So we had to take a step back and do something on the internal side. Prove to them internally we can make these things meet the customer needs, have the performance it needs to have the security it needs to have, and then we're going to roll it out to the external. That's the goal.
So the next step in the IoT is an IoT pilot that was kicked off right after Interconnect with the IBM team now brought into the mix, representing the Watson IoT analytics platforms, the P&Q, right? Also as well, and bringing that into the mix. We've proven we can get the information from sensors. We have the mobile capability. It's connected to Maximo. That's a function of now just adding on more sensors. But how do we get that additional ROI besides the direct result of response time capability? It's time to start getting some analytics and start looking at predictive capabilities. So one of the clear first goals was, we still have a lot of sites out there, although they're adopting these best business practices. When we look at their traditional corrective versus preventive maintenance programs, they're nowhere near that 80% PM, right? Which is kind of where we all like to be, unless you're in the when you're 90-something, right? But they're still down in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50% range. So PM optimization was a very easy, quick win to look at. So gather the data, use the sensors to give us a consistent stream of quality data to combine with what we've recorded in Maximo over the years and start to optimize those PMs.
More importantly, customers asking for it. They didn't go find someone, they volunteered. Help us with PM optimization, what can we do? And they wanted something very basic, very simple. We're doing monthly PMs, but the machine doesn't run consistently all month long. So now we're going to switch to a runtime. Meter-based. Simple. You run across one site, savings is phenomenal. And then you take it across 160, another 1,200, millions in savings. Just to go from that monthly based time frequency to a meter based runtime. That doesn't get into the condition monitoring and into the future of full analytics where you do a risk-based analysis.
Did you use multi-language in
Yes.
different countries? Was that challenging or manageable?
No, it was pretty smooth. We used the sites to do the development on the languages that were more of a common language rather outside stuff to go. It hasn't been difficult.
How many languages?
Currently, we have 10.
Training can be a challenge.
Yeah, that's what next question was. With all these sites, how did you deal with the training?
It varies. Typically, they do speak English, just not very well. So you have to monitor the way you present something, or you have to bring in someone that will help and do the translation. Unfortunately, you can't find somebody that knows Maximo to be your translator.
In Chinese?
So you lose it. So you speak well and you present things in Chinese on the screen. That helps. So, from that perspective, and they're very quick to grab on and learn it themselves, and then they begin to ask questions, which shows their maturity. And that's when you go back in and help them to get to the next level. So very, very small steps. Everything is in steps, phases. Keep it simple.
So, all of this, all along, we've been building a base still, right? And the centralized platform from a global perspective, the idea going to cloud and moving in that direction, these are critical components to enabling things like the IoT rollout. The cost per is way lower when I have one standard central framework versus 100 different servers I'm dealing with around the world, right? And being able then even to move to cloud, potentially with replicating data centers, increases our ability to deploy and still maintain quick connection, timeliness, and things like that. So these are some of the things that are on Shannon's long-term roadmap to get done. So really here, overall objective, what is this going to do? And see, I underlined a few things here. There were a few key things that really were demanded that if we're going to do this, we have to have one, single dashboard view. I don't need 4 different reporting tools from 4 different perspectives to try and figure out what the heck's going on. I want one single view, right? And so with that, if we truly have that one single view, and we are connected to all these IoT devices, it allows us to see things that have been dark to us before, right? So we have all these intelligent devices out there, and they're ready and willing to listen. They're talking, we're just not listening to them. We don't know what's going on, but it's happening. This starts to give us some view into what's going on out there. We're learning new things just because we started listening. That's all we're doing. We're just suddenly listening, and we're learning new things about what's going on.
Let me talk a moment about the single dashboard view. Some of the first questions that people ask, what application are you using? Doesn't matter. The idea is, what do I want to display? What information do I want to see? I don't care what system produces it. I don't care if it's something from IBM or something that they've made from Access Database. I don't care. I just want it to show me what I need to see every single time. J&J is always moving into something new. It used to be Cognos. Now they're looking at Click. Now they're going to be looking at something else. Doesn't matter. As long as my view stays the same, I don't care what application. That's what the listening part does for us. We can continue to maintain what we need so that we can continue to make those business decisions.
Did you make a decision there on the reporting engine?
I'm sorry?
Did you make a decision on your reporting engine?
Right now we're using Cognos, but they're moving to Click. But we're going to maintain that view regardless of the application.
Platform has to be what we ended up calling an active listener, right? It's not only listening at prescribed times to prescribed devices. It's listening to anything and everything. Because as we looked at this more and more, what we realized, kind of to put it in human terms, we stand around at one of these conferences or one of these rooms, we see a lot of people. We may not know everyone. I don't know who everyone is. But I know when something's happened. I can see when something's going on. I can see when people are starting to act abnormal. I can see when a group gathers. I can see when people run, right? And there actually becomes We get trending from that, and there are security aspects to that as well. A side effect of this is what we realize is that we've been buying IoT-enabled devices for the past 5-10 years because manufacturers recognize, well, we need to put that capability in there because that's competitive in the marketplace now. They want to see that, right? So we're buying them, but we're not using them. We're making the assumption simply because we're not using it that it's not doing anything. That is not a safe assumption. Those devices are open. They're ready to talk. They have a default password that you can find by going to the manufacturer's website and pulling up the installation manual, right? We can walk through and start controlling devices in all kinds of places because they were purchased not for the intent to use that IoT capability, but that IoT capability now has created a security threat internally. So by becoming an active listener and truly watching and listening to everything, we're also now able to trend and look at and help identify potential threats within our manufacturing floor of things that we don't know what it is, we need to discover what it is, and we need to secure it.
The other amazing component about this, we often flood our end users with new opportunities. Maybe it's IR, maybe it's vibration analysis, some kind of condition monitoring that we're going to capture. Being active in the listening, you also understand what you should be rolling out. You can have all these wonderful ideas, but they're not ready to fail. So we've had to really dig into not only what do we need, what do we want, what should we have, but what do we release and when, and to whom. Again, it's got to have that business case, that ROI. It's got to be standard and repeatable.
So, breaking that down a little bit, some of the individual goals, some key ones, single solution layer. You want a single dashboard. And then we start talking about what does that mean? Well, at the end of the day, we have multiple OEE systems, we have multiple different BIMs or BMSs. Some sites have MES systems in place, some don't. You can't go to 160 sites around the globe and just start rip and replace. That doesn't work. So we needed to have a solution that can come in and act as an umbrella layer that goes across all of that current technology that's in place. And then also has the ability to get down, so to speak, and fill gaps where they exist. If we go into a site that doesn't have a validated maintenance package, well, Maximo's in this solution. Maximo's at the heart of it, so it fills that gap for you. It's ready to be there. You don't have any kind of dashboard reporting analytics solution. It's in there. So part of this goal is also to be able to just come in with that single layer, overlay, read from underneath everything, normalize the data at that layer without trying to go in, we all know about our data, right? We have 30 years of inconsistent data reporting. So we have data nomenclature issues, normalization, data cleansing. In order to get by that, past that, we had to look at it being a single solution layer laid on top of everything. We will deal with those other problems as we can get to them. But this allows us to operate immediately with the quality of information we have available.
And it also allows us to simplify the user's experience. So you have, within J&J, we have external companies that support us internally, such as an integrated supplier. They come in and manage a storeroom where they do the buying for us. And they always bring their own system, which is never validated, which is always more difficult. They want more information than they need, and they don't give anything back to us. We've removed that. They use ours. Maximo is the single source. If they wanted to feed into their information, okay. We don't have a problem with that. We've designed it so that they can do a read or a view only, as long as we make sure they're getting the data we want them to have. The rest is ours. So that's been huge across the world, because there are so many purchasing systems out there that are used. Single source.
And with each one of those is constructed to do our best to enforce an improvement in data quality along the way, right? So trying to lock things down, make sure that we're compliant with global standards in terms of nomenclature increasing the data quality as we can. Of course, tons of business benefits when we look at it, right? All of this data with Watson Analytics now gives us tremendous capability to start making associations and correlations that we didn't naturally see before, we may have not thought of. So we're very quickly starting to see increased uptime, which means a decrease in our unplanned downtime. At the end of the day, all manufacturing business is about what is my asset cost per unit produced, right? That whole asset life cycle cost, the production, the ownership of it, the maintenance of it, all of that. And we're seeing a decrease in that cost per unit produced, which is at the end of the day profit.
I think there's a very important bullet point here that I ran into across the sides. The end user can make or break information. And if you come in and you say something like you're going to make their job easier, they're going to translate that into you're going to take their job away. That's why we use labor utilization. We don't want to take their job. If we're using an external company to do something else, and an internal person can do it or needs to be trained or qualified to do that work, that's where we'll get rid of that external company and internally do it. We can't help them get there if we don't know what they're doing. So they're always being a salesman to someone, from the top to the bottom to the top. So it's important that you use the right verbiage when you're rolling things out. Small step.
So now looking at the actual deployment of this, how do you roll something like this out? So we had to create something that was flexible, right? Because at the end of the day, global environment, and as fast as everything is today, we still have limitations on things like architecture. So there's a cloud-based component, Watson Analytics, for example, that's in the cloud, right? But there are still some components that are going to naturally be local. Things like the OPC servers, the SHAD server, so that it's the IoT server, collecting all of the IoT sensor information, is still sitting at a local level. So there is a both cloud and on-premise component to that. As we said, the single layer, again, has to be that single layer solution so that we are connecting and reading from other systems. We are not trying to go in and replace everything. And obviously that's huge for the continuity of the business and the workforce, right? At the end of the day, all they want to see is that we have given them a new dashboard with a greater capability to respond to more information. We did not change their ability to do their day-to-day work in their current systems.
If anything, we have to improve that experience.
Absolutely. And then so, from the IoT TSM perspective, basically looking at a phased approach there, okay? We would all love to be big bang and be cognitive on day one. Reality is that takes time. Our complete data set's not in place in order to do that. So the first one is getting the base analytics in there. So we're gathering the sensor data and starting to analyze it. And this is huge where, we throw it into Watson, and Watson starts analyzing things and help us see new capabilities, new correlations in there. As we get that established and understand what we are looking at that level one, then we move into the predictive, and this is where the PMQ comes into place. And a lot of things that PMQ can offer us is building upon now that we have that standard of what data is good and what we're looking at, let's get into the predictive phase.
And Watson is used to help with that standard data. Okay, so if you know what fields you want to generate your reports with, then you gotta make sure they're populated. If they're gonna be populated, you don't want just an X in the field. You wanna make sure it's good quality data. Watson can help identify those very quickly and easily. And you can publish them so that the sites can have a friendly competition to see who gets their data clean first. And it does work. Amazing what you can put into a newsletter one month and the next month it's all better.
And then the third stage is the cognitive. So using Watson Cognitive to build upon what Watson Analytics and P&Q are putting out so that we take that next step into seeing. Traditionally, we tend to look at things like production lines or a single point asset, things like that. And what the cognitive allows us to do is to see those second, third, fourth layer connections that are not so easily seen on the surface between all of the systems in our operating environments. And cognitive helps us do that. So we start to see those correlations which allow us to also predict upstream, downstream effects multiple steps away, which is much more difficult even in just the traditional predictive analytics models.
Just a quick question from the room. Anybody ready for that?
We are,
You are?
yeah.
Awesome.
We've been collecting data for 3 years now.
Your audience, your users are ready for that next step.
We've actually brought IBM in and we were having trouble painting a certain amount of car on our license line. And we brought IBM in and did a task that collected 6 million rows of data. And they told us exactly why we couldn't paint that color and save us millions of dollars.
Awesome.
I'm gonna ask a
That's
question
impressive.
of how you guys are tracking to make sure you're hitting your ROI. So you can report back to your business so they'll let you expand even more. Because you have to have those cases and you have to have that data to prove to the business you can save them those dollars.
We use it at the site level. So we have an enterprise program that we use to capture all the financial requirements. So if I create a project and I capture my savings and all of my spend associated with that project in a single enterprise solution. The sites use the same thing. So any ROI at the site level, I've gone in, I've trained them, I've helped them to come to the understanding of what they need to do to improve. They track through that same tool and associate this program with what they're doing, and you can see the benefit from that. So it's an association in the same enterprise program. But it has to
How
be
much time
directly
did
from
you
the site.
spend, how much time did you spend to set up your data collection methodology? Because there's so many ways to collect data, there's so many types of data you can collect from different devices. You know, we've spent the last few years in trying to standardize our data collection methodology across shops. Because not every shop is gonna have the same type of information or the same equipment. Some, they don't have any way to collect, so we're putting sensors on. You know, so the data collection is huge in this whole thing, and I think that's a gap that everybody forgets about.
And so that's one of the initial things that we did with the NE2 program. So it's the best practice processes that go with data collection, maintenance management, asset management from, for the entire life cycle of an asset. So
What kind of
that
systems are
culture
you-
was already there.
What kind of systems are you using to pull your data and display your data? Because they want real-time data, so they know what's happening on the line. They don't wanna wait for your analytics, right? So are you using those same systems to pull your data into your analytics system?
I think we really pretty much covered this already. Existing systems, concept was it's going to work with all the existing systems, overlaying them, reading from them, not rip and replace. So, anything additional on that, Shannon? No. Okay. So, lots of benefits here, and this is where as we look at this, and as it rolls out, we have that first level direct benefit, which is usually what we're focused on, and where we're targeting the ROI out of any of our projects. We want efficiency gains, we want more uptime, less unplanned downtime, we want lower cost of maintenance, things like that.
Don't be afraid or caught up in the fact that just because this is labeled as a direct benefit or a third degree, that you can't dip into those other things and meet the needs for that low-hanging fruit, such as optimized inventory or spares. you can start an optimization program for your spares. We are currently. And we're recognizing from just a purchasing perspective and the issuing perspective of the inventory, what we can do to optimize at that level. It's low hanging fruit, that's simple, that's a calculation. Now, when we get into why we're doing these things and you start analyzing the data further, you can optimize them. That's when it becomes a third degree.
And of course, very much based upon how much data you have. What's the quality of that data? You know, what's the breadth of it compared to your operational footprint? So
Eventually, a PM optimization program will optimize your inventory further. Done properly. But don't be afraid to tackle it now.
So of course, the real goal here is moving from that reactive mode all the way up to the predictive and cognitive states, right? As we get there, these are some different statistics. This one's from nucleus research rather. You know, they looked at when we get to actual predictive, we can reduce unplanned downtime 60 to 90% in manufacturing environments. Those are phenomenal numbers. When you think about the cost associated with emergency maintenance, right, and what it does to the production side, the numbers are phenomenal.
We have seen reduction in the 30% category across the board. Which
So-
says a lot when you take roughly 128,000 people and say that you change your world just a little bit. And then you have to do something standard in that mindset to make that major change. It says a lot to be able to come back with a 30% reduction improvement.
So these are the kinds of ROI numbers that allow to build on, continue to build on this and take it to the next level. It really sells the project. So other benefits, and these are from IBM, things coming back from Watson Analytics or from P&Q, right? As that's been deployed out there, what are people seeing? And I think for me, one of those, the second one's really huge. An 87% accuracy, 48 hours out of a predictive failure. That's huge. 87% accuracy 2 days ahead on a failure. If we look at that alone and the ability to reduce that unplanned downtime, keep production up because of that, that one alone pays for huge projects. Just that one component.
Just that one component we could put in our vision care franchise and reduce the amount of scrap that we have to the point of roughly 48,000 euros per day.
Per day. The number was huge.
And that's just from the failure of a simple mold used to produce the content.
Some quick screenshots here, some different like KPI samples, and I think these are out of the P&Q dashboard, I believe. Different dashboards, and this is really in the very beginning stages here, of trying to figure out what can we look at, what should we be looking at, what should we be looking for, right? And really, this is kind of the fun part. The more you dig into the data, the more you discover new correlations between things and new ways to look at it, right? It's teaching us a lot.
And if any of you have to deal with what I deal with, you have the enterprise, then you have the sector, then the franchise, then the site, and then the departments at the site, and then the user. And that's all in a single day. I want to see it differently. It's not an easy task, but when you can show it in this kind of a dashboard that makes sense holistically, the benefits, and you just plug their name in and they love it. Simple, straightforward.
All right. Questions? Thoughts? Does this make sense? Crazy? Is it interesting?
That's interesting.
So you've done this.
between the two and act as a interpreter.
And you're, been there, done that. I used to be IT, so I kind of thought maybe that was the case, but,
That's IT. Which makes no sense.
well, no, IT, they don't want to give up control. And
Which still makes no sense.
I know it makes no sense, but that's the way it
They
is.
they say, well, we don't want to lose our jobs, but you're contracting everything anyway.
Yeah.
You're just keeping it on premise rather than somebody else's building.
It's control.
It's control. Eventually, we get there.
Yeah, it makes sense, I mean, especially when you're a worldwide organization. You're having the same challenges.
And infrastructures internally